Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Run us through your thought process for your method podcasting, please.
I don't know if there were like thoughts that like precluded me doing this, but I kind of thought like Nick Cage is this great like or well-known like method actor, like or he brings a lot of method into his acting, which is to say that like he puts himself in the shoes or the mental state of the character. So like a lot of with Leaving Las Vegas, there was a lot of time spent drunk and filming himself drunk and things like that to find out how he was in that situation. So
and something like Renfield recently, he just was Dracula on set the whole time.
Pretty much all the time. He says it wasn't all the time, but I mean, who knows?
If you had the chance to just have people call you Dracula and wear a cape all the time, wouldn't you do it?
Yes.
I mean, or Count.
Or Count.
Ooh.
So
if you're nasty.
I was doing a back-to-back this morning, and in Bringing Out the Dead, Nicolas Cage plays a very burned out paramedic, and he exists just on like caffeine and whiskey, and he doesn't eat so much, but he's like always really tired. So I thought I'd try to put myself in that mindset while I was watching specifically that movie to see if it affected things. So I smoked some weed. That's fine. I live in Washington. And then I drank a whole lot of caffeine to make myself like really out of it. So I was like battling tired and like hyperactivity and stress throughout the whole movie. And I will say it made it interesting. And we can talk about that more, but like when we get to that movie. But so, you know, I was just trying to put myself into his character's shoes as much as he put himself into his shoes or into that character's shoes, just so I could see what it was like. And I don't regret it, but I wouldn't have done it on the day that we record if I did it again.
You hear that, people? Nick is willing to put his body through real stupid things for your entertainment.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Cage Match, a roundabout way of meeting Nicolas Cage.
Oh, it tasted as bad as it felt.
You can't tell. It's going to be a very special episode.
We cannot use this.
No, we're using it. I don't do two of these.
Oh God, this is not usable.
Oh, it's perfectly usable.
It is not.
We're using it.
We are not. All right, so what's the conceit of this podcast?
Welcome back to Cage Match, a roundabout way of meeting Nicolas Cage. Peter.
He's our producer.
He is.
Hello. I'm here.
I'm one of the hosts, Sean, here with my other host,
Wiggle Bottoms McClure.
Yep.
Nick.
As you can tell, this is going to be a interesting episode.
It's gonna be a good one. We're gonna be like clean. We're gonna be fucking cutting it nice. We're gonna be like
it's a solid start.
Yeah.
You already got yelled at.
This show is one where we take 64.
Who got yelled at?
It was a collective.
Oh, okay, good.
Including me.
Okay. If it's an everybody's in trouble, then that's fine.
Yeah, we're all going to timeout.
Nice. See you guys in 10 minutes.
Yeah. This show is off the rails already. This show is where we take 64 of Nicolas Cage's best movies.
More notable movies.
And we're going to systematically go through them, break them down, and figure out what Nick Cage's best film is, as decided by us.
Two total authorities and subjects.
Yeah, I think at this point you guys probably can claim that. We're about like 80 hours of Nick Cage movies in.
I was actually watching the movies this week, and I was sitting there and I was like, man, I almost never watch movies without Nick Cage now. And it's actually like stunning when I do watch one, because I'll be watching and I'm like,
where's Nick Cage?
There's no Nick Cage. Like, I don't know any of these people, even though I know all of them, because it's still a Marvel movie or some shit like that. And it's like,
you're right. No, I couldn't put my finger on it, but I did go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and the whole time I'm like, something's missing.
It's Nick Cage.
Nick Cage.
You know, he could have been a great Kevin Bacon stand-in for the holiday special too.
Yeah, but the holiday special, that's not like movie star stuff. That's a holiday special.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't do not movie star stuff.
Yeah, that's like direct streaming, like
Yeah, good
Disney
point.
Plus stuff.
Good point.
That's below our Nicholas.
Which is why he's not in the now canceled National Treasure TV show.
I wonder why it got canceled.
No Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, that's probably its only issue.
Nicolas Cage might come cheap, but he still won't do TV.
I can't blame him, you know? I don't want to work that hard.
Yeah, you gotta have your scruples, right?
Well, TV's hard.
Right.
The shooting schedule is intense.
It fucking
Yeah.
sucks.
Can't just come in and out like 10 days, $5 million.
That's right.
You can't just sit in front of a green screen and in a cowboy hat and talk to the camera for, I'm assuming, about 6 hours worth of work.
Or yell about a piano or favorite chair.
He was actually in that scene, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, had to be. There was a fight.
Yeah.
Which is not in either of the movies we watched this week, because this week we watched Bringing Out the Dead.
1999. And Windtalkers from 2002.
Yeah, so not too far apart
No.
chronologically.
Both directed by kind of prestige directors.
Yeah, and both box office bombs, too. They were
Yeah.
real
Both definitely
failures.
outside of the director's niche.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of the bracket, this is the serious guy bracket.
Yep.
And we have the
So-
6 seed, which is Bringing Out the Dead, against the 11 seed, which is Windtalkers.
So serious Cage, so there will be no jokes in this comedy podcast.
Nope.
Peter will cut out any levity.
Absolutely. If we laugh once, cut.
We'll start over.
It's just going to be quacked.
Yep. No, every time we laugh, we have to start over.
Nope. Quack it.
God damn it. Welcome back to Cage Match: A Roundabout Way, meeting Nicolas Cage. I am your host, Sean, here with my co-host
Nick.
and our producer.
Peter, hello. No humor.
This pod
Now we're fucked.
God damn it.
hurts.
Let's just get into this because I cannot right now.
Yeah. What do you guys want to talk about first?
Let's do Windtalkers.
Sure.
Nick, do you have a haiku this week?
I don't have a haiku this week.
Do you have anything?
I have cold sweats.
Good. That's perfect.
That is actually perfect for this film.
All right. Summarize Windtalkers for us.
So it's been a really long time since I watched a war movie. Nick Cage is this military guy who went through some really shitty action on the Solomon Islands, and he gets paired up with a Navajo code talker guy. This is in World War II, and he's like protecting him, but also like dominantly protecting the code. So he's got orders like if the code talker was to be taken, he has to like kill him. And so it's just a couple small elements of the Pacific Front. Nick Cage trying to keep himself emotionally distant from this guy, even though he has to spend all this time with him, and then, you know, drama ensues.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
good.
pretty good.
Also, just an apology from the last episode. When we were talking about introducing this episode, I said incorrectly that it was about Apache code breakers. And yeah, it's Navajo specifically.
Navajo, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought so. That was
Yeah.
a great.
That was a really
that
good-
is actually pretty much
Yeah.
the story, and it
So-
goes for 2 hours and 14 minutes.
Nicolas Cage plays Joe Enders, and Adam Beach plays Ben Yazzie.
Which is a great name, except I kept thinking Benghazi the whole time.
Yeah, me too.
Every time his name came up, it was like Benghazi.
Oh, I was thinking Ben Yahtzee Croshaw from Zero
Oh,
Punctuation.
Yeah, that's a good one too. The cast for this movie though was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
no, there were so many people in this movie. Christian Slater. You always know you're going to have a fun time with Christian Slater.
Yeah. Once upon a time, he did things with,
Yeah.
him,
Yep.
with his time.
Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo, he had a pretty small part. I mean, as a Mark Ruffalo, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
honestly, I think he had the weakest bits of script. Like his
Yeah.
Agreed.
dialogue fucking sucked.
Yeah, no.
Like when he was talking about, oh, Santorini, oh, you gotta go to Santorini. It's like, oh man, you're just like some very bad stereotype.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stereotyping in here because, like, what's his face? Noah Emmerich, the guy with the big gun, the
Mhm.
kind of like not loosely racist,
Chick.
the racist guy named Chick.
Yeah.
You know.
The guy that I kept like, I couldn't stop thinking just like, oh, he's like Biff from he's
Yes.
the Biff of this movie.
He is the Biff.
But he does actually kind of get a little character redemption in the end.
He's the one. He's one of the few characters who has like a full arc where he starts off as I'm racist and I hate everybody who's not a white American, including my own allies who just happen to be Navajo.
Yeah.
And then he gets saved and he's like, my granddad used to tell me stories about killing Injuns, and now, who knows, maybe in 50 years we'll sit around with expletive for a Japanese person and have a beer. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I know it's a period
Eat some
piece.
sushi and have a Sapporo.
Yeah. I know it's a period piece.
Which
but
sounds fine to me right now.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Ooh,
But I
let's get
haven't
sushi.
really eaten today, so.
But yeah, I mean, Ruffalo's character basically is like, I'm Greek. And the end of his story arc is, I'm Greek.
Yeah.
And alive still.
Yeah. Which I could have sworn he got shot in the chest in that final shootout. He did make it, but I remember him getting shot at one point because there were only 4 of them, and one of them definitely got shot in the chest.
Oh, if we're talking about the final shootout, can we talk about the end credits real quick? How fucking weird and kind of bullshitty was it that they put up footage of the characters in black and white from the movie next to their names, like in slow motion, like it was an in memoriam.
Yeah.
But it's not a true story. There was no indication that this is based on any real people.
No.
And then they just slow motion in memoriam everybody.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm gonna watch the credits for us. No, I'm done. Okay, so we can break it down in 3 parts. Solomon Islands, Hawaii, Saipan. It opens up on the Solomon Islands. We've got a bunch of Marines. Nick Cage is a Marine in this. They're securing this swamp. They have to hold this position.
He refuses to retreat.
Yeah, he's not going to retreat
He'd
because
like-
his orders are to hold it. And
Everyone dies.
his entire unit gets killed and he is injured, which will, in the next scene in Hawaii, kind of introduce us to this nurse who takes a liking to him, kind of helps him recuperate. He's got this fucked up ear because of a grenade, and so his balance is out and he can't really hear so well. That only comes up a little bit. It's not necessarily
That's
important.
not a plot point in this film
Yeah,
at all.
really, I think they could have played that up more, but or
Yeah.
just not done that at all.
They use it as a character point
Yeah.
for like why he ended up getting stuck in this detail.
Right.
Because he was a good fucking Marine. He held the swamp to literally the last man.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, oh, despite his little injury, he's going to be the guy that has to kill the Navajo code talker if necessary. Because he's a good fucking Marine.
Yeah. Him and Slater are given the same detail with a different code
Right.
talker.
Yeah, we've got Ben with Nicolas Cage and Charlie, who is rolling with Christian Slater.
And Slater's character is fast
Yeah.
becomes friends with his code talker. They discover a love of music. They actually start bonding. And of course, push comes to shove. Slater can't do it.
So after Hawaii, we've kind of got Cage's Ender going back into active duty. He gets sent on this detail with the code talkers back out to Saipan. And from here, we get a couple different engagement zones, I guess you'd call
Yeah,
it. I don't
there's
know.
quite a few of these, and they all kind of blended together for me.
There are 3
There's
major fights.
three
3 major
fights.
engagements.
Yeah.
No, 4 if you count the town.
Yeah, 4.
So yeah, the first one is when they first get there and they're taking.
Yeah, they kind of take that beachhead.
Yeah.
And then they're just moving north through Saipan.
Yeah, and then there's the friendly fire incident,
Yeah.
then the town, and then the final minefield debacle.
Yes. Yeah, no, you're right. They do all the fight scenes in this really do blend together. And yeah, it's a war film, but you could have easily cut half an hour of this film and it would have had the same impact.
No. I feel like
I'm not a fan of war films though.
I'm not either. And when I was watching this, I was actually thinking like it's been a really long time since I've watched a war movie. And war movies actually handle this violence a lot differently because it's graphic
Mhm.
without exploiting the violence.
No, it's not. It shows how truly shitty this is.
But when a person is shot, there's an exit wound, there's blood. John Woo went with a very realistic take on war. The battle scenes are kind of graphic. I mean, in the very opening of one of them, like you get a guy whose hand is chopped off with a katana.
Yep.
At one point, a character's head is cut off with a katana. There's just
a limb gets blown off.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of different, very graphic
a
stuff.
lot of scenes with mines. There's a lot of artillery shelling in this.
Every time someone goes back to like help their buddy, they generally get mowed down.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's terrible. And
I'm assuming it's realistic. Drop down in the comments if you've ever been in
Please
an active
don't.
war zone.
It's interesting thinking about like, you know, Band of Brothers or any of those movies.
Or back to like Saving Private Ryan and things like that. They have very long, and I was thinking when I was watching this, I was like, the opening Solomon Island scene is a fairly long feeling depiction of this. But then I was thinking back to like Saving Private Ryan, where it was like almost 25 minutes or some shit like that.
Yeah.
It's like insanely long just on the D-Day landings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go back and watch Saving Private Ryan because, like we established, I'm not really a war movie guy. But it's intense.
it's not like overly gory. But one interesting thing I found out about this is John Woo really tried to make this in kind of war drama, a very serious depiction of war, and the studio was like, no, we want this to be more of an action film. This was supposed to come out in 2001. It got bumped for obvious reasons, and they made him take out half an hour of content, most of which was the more gruesome wartime war fighting. So half an hour of this movie was cut, and that was largely more combat.
Speaking of this being a John Woo movie, the second movie is a Martin Scorsese, so good names. This movie and next movie, neither of them necessarily feel like they were made by these directors.
No.
That's a good point.
One scene I felt in this movie where it felt like John Woo was really making the call. Yeah. And that's when Nicolas Cage is drunk and Ben is smoking the cigarette.
Yep.
And there's just like kind of slower, more artistic shots of him like blowing the cigarette. He was doing like a cleansing ritual sort of thing. And he was like blowing the smoke over Cage's drunk body and like trying to like drop ashes and stuff on him to kind of cleanse him or whatever. That's the only time I really felt like this felt like a John Woo movie.
So this felt like more like a John Woo movie to me in that in all of the combat scenes, you always have a guy from standing position, going to a shoulder roll, standing up and shooting someone for no reason. It happens a lot.
Yeah.
And
either shooting somebody or throwing a knife or something
a lot of
like
knife
that.
throwing.
I was introduced to I was introduced to John Woo with like The Killers, like his old school stuff. So I see a lot of that cinematography and a lot of that kind of violence in this film, which he's good at what he does. I do have a quote here from John Woo. This was his second to last film in America that he made in America.
Yeah, because he did Mission Impossible 2 right before this.
This is why he left. All Hollywood offers me is crap or big action pictures. I want to do something good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That is a pretty good quote.
Yeah.
Give me a war movie where you do something artistic that's unique, you know, show me a different angle so I can get into the trenches, so to speak, you know, where it's like, it feels different. Like, I don't need to see limbs being blown off left and right and like the gruesomeness of war all the time.
Yeah.
My problem with war movies is just that they're all presented as like a hero piece, but there just doesn't seem to be anything that feels heroic about a war movie to me.
No.
Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you could go through heroic actions, you could do very noble things, but just the fact of watching a movie about a war, it doesn't appeal to me unless that war happens in stars.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very different, that's an important point though. Like that is a vibe that takes some of the like grit out of it.
Yeah.
And like Star Wars can be gritty, but at the same time,
Andor was great.
It's abstracted, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I guess that's what it needs to be. It just needs to be fictional.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in a historic war piece because ultimately you can look, I mean, we're at a time now where we can look back at a lot of these wars, and there's not black and white intentions for everybody. And I'm speaking for America. There isn't black and white intentions in a lot of things. And it's not good people all the time. And it just kind of puts everybody on a pedestal in a war movie because they're all heroes.
History is written by the victors.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting concept. I mean, all these people in this movie getting shot and killed that are just fodder, right? Like, there's so much shelling, there's so much machine gun work, and it's just like bodies flying everywhere.
Now, this is also a conversation from 3 weenie little art kids who have never been involved with the military. When I was in high school, I took the ASVAB, and they're like, yeah, you should probably go in the military. And I took that as like, oh, I probably don't have very many options in this life. But I thought about it, honestly, for a moment. And then 9/11 happened, and I was like, y'all are fucked. Sorry, I'm not going to join in wartime.
My dad was in the military for a good chunk of his life, left home at 17 to join the military, and they fucked him over. They he had 2 years left in his service, and they're like, well, we can't afford your pension, so we're going to bust you down to private, or you can take this money and go. And he gave him the finger, bought a motorcycle, and moved to San Francisco.
Yeah. And then you came about.
And then I came about. Not fucking, yeah.
So he made some choices. Boy, I'm trying to think. Like, we are kind of anti-government, and we are pretty anti-cop.
We're definitely anti-cop.
Anti-establishment. And have we I guess we're pretty anti-military now, too, huh?
I think so. I mean,
we're not anti-military.
I like a good rogue agent like a Gary, but outside of that...
Yeah. Need more Garys.
If you can hang glide.
Don't worry, we've still got one more Gary. Maybe even a second run at Gary. Maybe Gary's the one who's going to go all the way.
You called it early.
Yeah.
I think you called your shot.
Man, let me tell you about this guy, Gary.
We're also 3 guys pushing 40. Talk to us in 15 years, which seems to be when all of our parents get into it.
You turn 30 and you have 2 options. You can get really into historical war movies or smoking meats. And I'm an established meat smoker.
Yeah, I would be much more on the meat smoking.
You're from Missouri, so you don't have a choice.
That's true.
I'm from San Francisco. This means something completely different for me.
Yeah, you're going to have to get really into Birkenstocks. I don't think you can have either of these options.
They're just comfortable.
I hope you like telling us all about your veganism later.
Fuck that.
In 15 years.
All right, one thing, because we're just going to jump around a little bit. One thing that I want to talk about. So Peter Stormare is the gunnery sergeant, and
he's a dick.
Well, he's a dick, but was he trying to have an American accent? I couldn't tell.
No, because they call him the Viking.
They call him the Viking.
Very clearly of Swedish.
Yeah, I mean his name is Hjelmstedt or something like that. But whatever accent he ended up doing was no accent, and it sounds fucking weird.
I think they were just trying to, if they were trying to do anything, tone down his Swedish accent for a Swedish American immigrant feel.
Maybe. It ended up sounding so off to me. I couldn't deal with it. I liked his character. I mean, he was a piece of shit, but
he's
I can understand a piece of shit character.
They're Marines in the shit.
Yeah. I want to just if we're going to just talk about characters, the female character, I will say character in that, what was the point of her? She keeps writing him letters that he doesn't read, but they still do voiceovers of her writing them.
I mean, to your point, there is not much of a reason for that character. It's just there's a nurse who feels strongly for him based on the couple weeks that he was there with, the Bens or whatever.
Yeah.
The Bens.
This film it's a movie centered around the idea of Navajo code talkers. Yet your main character is Nicolas Cage. Ben is integral, but Ben is not the focus of this movie.
No, but you can have a movie about a subject from the perspective of an outsider.
You can, but I don't think that's what this was.
At the end of the day, that is exactly what this was.
I mean, yeah, I guess I just don't think it was done well.
Yeah,
in that regard.
I think John Woo
Sure.
talked about that too, where he talked about how he really wanted this to be more about the friendship aspect and like the camaraderie that comes from being in a fucking horrid situation. And studio, as you pointed out, really wanted it to be a different thing.
Yeah.
It needs a rewrite
Yeah.
for sure, because whatever they did with Cage's character Ender, it really kind of hollowed him out. And he does have a bit of an arc, but it's very shallow.
Yeah.
Fun fact, Nicolas Cage learned to speak Navajo fluently for this role, claiming it would help him understand the script better. John Woo said Nick Cage didn't understand which character he was supposed to be playing.
I mean, Cage also spoke some Japanese in this, and it got me thinking, why does a kid from Jersey who had all the troubled past that he did, like they talk about him assaulting a priest who, in Cage's defense, was this vice principal of his Catholic school and things like that. And so he's got like this whole like story of like, oh, he's just no good. He's only good at being a Marine. And then like he knows all this Japanese and stuff. And it's like he actually has a conversation at one point with a lady and her child in this town. And it's like, did you just pick this up in like the 2 years that you've been actively probably in the Army or the Marines? It's like, it's a weird character point.
Yeah. It kind of makes me think, I think it was Family Guy, like early seasons of Family Guy. At some point, somebody speaks in Spanish to, I don't know, Brian or something like that. And he says something back and then they continue talking.
Oh, I know the line you're talking about.
Yeah. But it's just like, I only learned these things and this follow-up sentence. And then it's like, okay.
Yeah, that's the Brian and Stewie big road trip episode.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yep. What are we doing here again? Oh, let's talk about Nick Cage's performance, I guess. Since this is a Nick Cage podcast. It's good.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think it goes out of its way to do anything. There's a couple scenes, but not much. It's pretty wooden.
Yeah, that was my feeling on it too. It's like, I didn't love the movie. I didn't love his performance, but I think a lot of that is script. He plays a closed off man well, so I guess he's doing that. But, you know, it was hard for me to connect with him as like a human to give a shit about.
So there's a few scenes where they have to call in airstrikes.
Oh, the clip from the boats?
The clip from the boats, that's terrible because it's just like, we're going to use some old footage of like gunboats or like
it's pretty expensive to get an aircraft carrier.
So, but beyond that, I was going to talk about the planes, the flybys.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have these planes that are CG and it's early 2000 CG, but they use the same animation for every time a bomb is dropped. So the plane always comes in from the same angle and is only ever lit properly for the first time it's used. So every other time it's used, it's lit in the wrong direction.
Huh. That's something I never...
Which is,
visual artist here, so I pick up on the most noodly things.
But like, this had a decent budget for the time. It was $115 million for this. It's like, they could have gotten... I mean, you're not going to rent a fucking gunship and have it shoot artillery, but you could CGI that better than their like 1920s footage that they had.
Yeah. I will say that the artillery was all very accurate. Actually, everybody was very accurate in this movie.
Yeah. They got a lot of like...
You could be shooting your gun from your hip and you would take out 7 Japanese warriors.
Yeah.
You could be jumping and somersaulting through the air and you'd be taking people out. Artillery, the mortar rounds were always hitting.
Yeah.
Like there was never a miss. It was never questionable. It's just like, boom, straight into this tank and this and that. And it's like, wow, you guys are really good at trigonometry.
John Woo's like early films, again, like The Killers, the whole final scene is a 20-minute gunfight between 2 guys and usually the mafia. And by the time they've mowed down like the 10 named characters in the movie, you just have guys in like painter's overalls showing up for like 50 more guys to get mowed down for the big action set piece. And that's how that last kind of stand feels. You have 4 guys and they're like, we're almost out of ammo. And then you have a 20-minute gunfight where they don't run out of ammo.
What do you got for like quotes on this movie? What'd you bring in here? What'd you bring to the party?
So
word wise,
this is right after Joe and Ben kind of start to open up to each other, be friends. They're drinking, and Joe has just been given a medal for saving the day, even though it was Ben's idea, and Ben was the one who had to dress up like a Japanese soldier to get it done, but doesn't get recognition. So Joe is talking about the first time he got a medal. First one they gave me, threw it into the ocean. And Ben asked him, "What you get that one for?" "For not dying. 15 men who fought with me got decorated too. For dying." Really good line.
It is a good line. That's actually kind of the only one that stood out, so I'm curious what Nick's got.
Good fucking Marine.
This movie is not thick with comedic lines. You'll get a chuckle here and there throughout the movie, but and it's not like it never earned the character development for a lot of like very well like emotionally connecting lines. But what I got is this same scene where Ben and Joe are talking, and Joe's drunk, and he's just talking about how he did what he was ordered to do, and you can tell like he has his own kind of internal struggle with it, and Ben's just trying to like calm him down and like get him to just be like, "Hey man, it's not your fault whatever happened." And Cage just comes back with, "Yeah, I'm a good fucking Marine. That's why they gave me this detail." And he just kind of like looks at Ben, and Ben doesn't know that, push comes to shove, he's going to shoot him. But it's where you kind of see Cage having more internal conflict with it as they've started to develop a friendship.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see like a little bit of character growth in that moment.
We get a good just classic Cage just screaming scene in this film, but not a lot of gold in terms of great line reads.
No, it's a very movie specific performance from him.
Yep.
So we're not getting a Nicolas Cage performance. We're getting a Windtalkers performance for this movie.
Which, fine. I mean, the man has range.
Yes, he does. And, we know he's a good actor. He did this.
Yeah.
He did do this.
Yep.
He also did this.
The other movie.
Bringing Out the Dead, 1999. Martin Scorsese. Starring Nicolas Cage as Frank Pierce and Patricia Arquette as Mary Burke.
And another Paul Schrader as Ryder.
And Paul Schrader's Ryder. But before we get into that, I was going to say, and a cavalcade of other amazing actors. Both these movies cast astoundingly.
Really good, yeah.
We got John Goodman. We have Ving Rhames with a full head of hair, which I did not recognize him.
Oh, yeah.
Until I paused the movie. I was watching on Amazon. I paused it, and it gives you credits. And I'm like, never seen Ving Rhames with hair.
Yeah, he looks weird with hair.
Yeah.
And then you've got Tom Sizemore. And Cliff Curtis is a drug dealer guy named Cy Coates.
Yep.
And then a weird one that I definitely didn't recognize him because he's made up pretty well is Mark Anthony, the singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
Is like a drug addict guy who I think he got shot or something at some point and he lost his mind.
Yeah, in a drug dealer conflict, he got shot.
I thought he did a good job.
He did a great job. Also, just fun little like blink and you miss it performance from I don't have her name written down. The actress who played Carla on Scrubs.
Yeah.
In the final scene.
But yes, Judy Reyes.
Judy Reyes, yeah.
We did also have a single scene from somebody I fucking loved, and that was Michael Kenneth Williams. He just played a drug dealer who got shot and dies in one scene.
Yeah.
But you'll know him. He played Omar. Well, okay. Oh, that was in The Wire. Yeah. So he played Omar in The Wire. He's been in like all the HBO shows.
Yeah.
He was fucking great.
I think the only other character of note that I kind of saw was that Mary Beth Hurt was playing the like intake nurse at the hospital.
Yeah.
Who is like a real piece of shit, but maybe has a heart of gold. I don't know. But anyway, she is
she definitely has a soft spot for Mr. O.
Yeah.
For sure. And she is
Mr.
Paul Schrader's wife.
Oh, is she?
Yep.
Unfortunate. She must have a soft spot for
bad people.
Speaking of
I couldn't think of a way to not say it meanly.
speaking of
Nope, I'm putting it out there.
Just dum-dums. She's got a soft spot for dum-dums for people
speaking
with
of
soft skulls.
speaking of spouses, Nicolas Cage and Patricia Arquette are married at this point in their lives.
Yes.
They would get divorced 2 years later. So yeah, this film, Nicolas Cage plays a EMT, end of his rope. He hasn't saved a life in a year. He's haunted by the people he's lost, specifically one young girl named Rose, who he sees everywhere. And the movie takes place over the course of 3 nights, where his first call is saving a man who's had a heart attack and is Mary's father, and that's how they meet. And we follow him over the course of 3 nights and his ups and downs, with Mary's father kind of being the through line to his mental state and where he's at with the world.
Yeah.
It's kind of a vignetted film. Most the 3 nights he has a different ride along, a different partner every night, and they each kind of take him down different avenues of the job.
The major through line and the piece that ties everything together though is Mary, because it's his involvement with her father's case and her that opens up, the worlds of the drug dealing. It kind of ties in this character Noel, who has had a head injury and is very not right anymore. It's the story.
Yeah.
It's Nicolas Cage and Mary throughout her problems with drugs, his problems with the trauma of his job, and just how the two of them ride through this wave, not necessarily together, but
Parallel.
Parallel to each other.
I mean, Nicolas Cage puts in what I thought was a great performance. You see him losing his grip on reality more and more as the film goes on. This movie is done in kind of a vignetted style where it's 3 nights, 3 different partners, ride-alongs. And let's start off with John Goodman, who is great. I mean, John Goodman's great now.
He's always great.
Yeah, this happens to be his normal partner at this moment.
Yeah.
So they ride along together. They do a couple smaller things, nothing huge.
Yeah, it's Mr. O is one of the main ones.
Yeah, they introduce us to Mr. O, who is just outrageous drunk. I mean,
drunk homeless guy.
Yeah, drunk homeless guy. He smells really bad, and they call him Mr. O because all he ever seems to say is "oh,"
which Nick Cage is thrilled about because it means nobody's gonna die.
Yeah,
just gets to pick someone up and drop him off.
Yeah, you just
have to deal with
drive him to the hospital, and nobody likes picking up Mr. O.
Yeah.
So every time Mr. O comes up, there's just a big debate, and Nick Cage always wants to take that job. But so they start with Burke.
Yeah, Mary's father, who had a heart attack, locked himself in the bathroom, and they got there 10 minutes after he'd stopped breathing.
Right. So for the remainder of the movie, he's kind of in a vegetative state. It's Nick Cage checking in at the hospital where he dropped him off, both with Mr. Burke's doing, but really in relation to how it's affecting his daughter, Mary.
Yeah.
And kind of creating a relationship with her throughout. So that's our major tie line.
Yeah.
So we go Burke, we got some Mr. O.
We get the conversation on the pier. They go to stop so John Goodman can have a bit of a nap.
Yeah.
Because John Goodman is completely checked out at this point from the job. He tells about his plan about how he's going to start up his own ambulance company out on the island, and he'll be the boss.
Be the captain.
He'll be I'm the captain now. In a year's time, that's kind of his plan, and he's just it's just a job.
Yeah. Oh, he doesn't think about it when he's in the van at all, or the ambulance at all.
He just wants to stop for
food or coffee. That's all he's thinking about. In the beginning, where they're driving around, he's like, "Oh man, we got to go get some beef lo mein. Beef lo mein. I've been thinking about it since
5 minutes.
Woke Chinese. Up. We gotta." The expletive is to the left here, and it's like, "Oh, you missed it. You gotta take the next turn. Oh, it's a parking lot." All he thinks about it is this, and then at the very last second, as they're turning to the Chinese place, he just slaps the dash. He's like, "Oh fuck!" And Cage is just terrified. He's like, "I had beef lo mein last night. I can't have it 2 nights in a row. We got to go somewhere else. What do you want?" It's Jesus Christ, it's 2 a.m. That's literally all he thinks about is where he's going to take breaks. That relationship is all about like one person distancing themselves emotionally from the realities of their job. And then it goes into the next night.
Before we get into Marcus, I do want to talk about Frank's relationship with the dispatch, with his boss. He comes in late every night.
Oh God!
And
yeah,
the boss, the captain's like, it's your ninth time being late. You've called out sick 4 times. You can't call it sick anymore. Like, the higher ups want me to fire you. He's like, good, all right, cool. I was like, not going to fire you. It's like, I told them if they want you fired, they got to come down here and do it. It's like, they won't do it. You got to do it. Because Nick Cage just wants out.
Why did he bark at him?
To show he's the big dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's big dog energy.
Yeah, he just barks at him.
God, if I had a nickel for every time some big dog barked around me just to show him.
And I love this scene because he's like, I'll fire you tomorrow. Fire you tomorrow. And then as Nick Cage defeatedly is about to go out, just turns around and goes, I could bark too. It's like, sure you can.
I was going to say, I used to have this job that I fucking hated. And, like 80% of the time it was okay. But there were things that they just asked me to do that were outside of what I had originally agreed to do. And
butt stuff.
Always.
That's what you agreed to do?
Yeah, always butt stuff. And then they want me to do outside the butt stuff.
Yeah, which it's always in.
Yeah.
Got to be in the butt.
I'm a clean guy. I don't like messes.
All right, we got to start over. We laughed.
Yep.
No, so
Welcome back to Cage Match, Colin Roundabout Way meeting Nicolas Cage.
Oh, is that what it is? Every time somebody laughs, we have to start the episode over?
Only on the serious episodes.
Ooh, fuck, okay.
Ooh, that's a fun challenge for season 2.
But yeah, they made me do Christmas lights. And it sounds stupid to be like, oh, they made me put up Christmas lighting for rich people. And it's like, no, fuck that. I don't like the holiday and I don't want to do it. I was always trying to get fired. And there was one day, like, I get called into the boss's office. He's fucking tearing me a new one about something that isn't relating to me. It's like I was just supposed to supervise somebody and he put me on a different job and then they fucked up elsewhere. He's like giving me the riot act and I just fucking toss my keys down. I'm like, fine, fucking fire me right now. Get me out of here. Like, you fucking hate having me here. Just fire me. And he looks me in the eyes and he's just like, Nick, it's a bigger punishment to keep you.
So night 2, Marcus night.
Yeah.
So Marcus, played by Ving Rhames, who
with hair
is
hot hair,
a character.
Oh, man, he's so fucking good.
He's like more in the realm of, they're doing God's work. They're saving people.
Yeah, he's fully leaning into the religious redemption and it's Jesus saving people. It's like, so Marcus's angle in this is like, it's all in Jesus's hands.
Yeah.
When things go well, they did a great job. When things don't go well, that's just God's will.
And he even talks about how, he pulled a jumper off a roof.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick Cage is like, yeah, that happened, in Ireland once. This woman was going to jump and like the wind pushed her back. It's like
the classic story of the Cliffs of Moher.
And Nick Cage is, and he's like, well, the wind helped. And Ving Rhames gives one of my favorite readings of his is, I'll preach heaven and beat the hell out of you, son.
I think my favorite thing was that as like any good Christian, he seems horny as fucking shit.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I didn't write it down because I knew we were going to talk about it regardless. There are a lot of prostitutes in this movie because it's New York, Manhattan in the 90s. And by God, it's like every other shot is a hooker. And it's no, because it's the 90s. So it's okay to call them hookers still. And also, there is a very professional difference between the two. So, the scene with Ving Rhames and Nick Cage just like driving through like Times Square or something, and Ving Rhames just has like a huge fan of cash that he's just like waving in front of his face, and he's like, "Let's go look at the hookers."
Yeah.
When he's so horny for Queen Latifah as the dispatcher for that night.
Oh yeah, love.
Yep.
Apparently they went on a blind date once and she like smashed a bottle over his head.
Yeah, she seems badass.
Why you gotta bring that up? Yeah, I mean, Ving Rhames steals this movie, and they really put him right in the middle of it.
So they do wind up saving someone someone that night.
They have two good moves that night. Their big action is they go to this nightclub.
Mm-hmm. I love the music in this movie. It's great. And
great soundtrack, yeah.
Super deep. And I don't know, maybe this recording was for this soundtrack, but there's a super deep Jane's Addiction cut when they're in this club that I've only ever heard on a really weird, like, B-side album. So maybe it was recorded for this movie. I don't know. But just like, Scorsese always has great music in his films.
He does.
Again, peak 90s movie, just industrial club with a bunch of people in black leather.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely like they go to the goth club that plays Jane's Addiction.
Yep.
Because
goths
love
Jane's Addiction.
Yeah, that's their thing. But we have this scene of them like going up.
That look.
They have this scene. Yeah. They have this scene going
How many
up.
more times can we get you to start this?
Welcome back to Cage Match: A Roundabout Way of Meeting Nicolas Cage. I'm your host, Sean. Here with my co-host.
They have this scene, like going to this nightclub. There was a cardiac arrest, and they show up, bring all their shit up top, and they're kind of looking around. They scope the scene, and they're like, "Yeah, this is drugs. There's this drug that they've talked about that's hot on the scene.
Red Death."
Yeah. Right. Which is like your typical heroin, whatever.
But I mean, Ving Rhames' original response to the body. Oh shit, he dead.
Yeah. Nick Cage checks and he's like, "Oh, he's got like a pulse." And so they're
Bust
like,
out the narco.
Yeah.
Narcan.
So they get the Narcan out.
Narcan.
And
do you just want to do it?
Yeah. Ving Rhames goes into a dialogue with the rest of the people that are there, which happens to be the remainder of the band. The person on the ground is like the singer or something. The drummer's there, and there's some groupies, and there's just a dialogue. "I rebuke the spirit of drugs in the name of Jesus. What's his name?"
"I be banging."
"What you mean, I be banging?"
"I be banging."
"The hell kind of name is I be banging?"
"I don't know his real name. It's Frederick Smith."
"Okay, Freddie."
"It's Frederick."
"Okay, I be banging. We're gonna bring you back from the dead. Dear Lord, here I am again, asking one more chance for a sinner. Please, Lord, bring back I be banging, Lord. You have the power, Jesus. You have the might. You have the super light to spare this worthless man." And I be banging sits up. "Rise up, I be banging, and start your life anew. Lord, oh, thank you, Lord."
What happened?
So there's only two things that I do well in this life, and that's the
a Ving Rhames impression.
Ving Rhames impression and Gary Faulkner impression.
Yeah, you're pretty good at both.
So thank you very much. But that fucking scene is so fucking
good.
funny because while they're sitting there, like, and Marcus is doing all of this, Nick Cage is like slyly putting the Narcan into I be banging. So like Marcus has everybody holding hands and like holding this like little Jesus vigil over the goth boy just so that they can like posture this whole scene. Marcus is very theatrical and fun. Everybody's got their thing, their shtick, and Marcus's is just very over the top. And so,
yeah, and I mean, one of the outcomes of that is like he also is kind of a drunk, and he has a bunch of booze in his his work bag, and then they fucking crash the ambulance.
Yes.
So that comes in after their next call. Tom.
So this is in a like kind of burnt out old building. They find a young teenagers.
I mean, a crack den's a crack den.
Yeah, it's a crack den. And again, a great Marcus line. "Oh shit, a fat crackhead." Because there's a pregnant woman who
I forgot about that line.
They're saying is having like in cardiac arrest. No, she's in labor, and her boyfriend is just like, impossible, we're virgins, while she's actively giving birth to twins.
Yeah, and I'm looking at him and I'm like, yes, you are.
Yeah.
But
and then he even says like, it's a miracle. But yeah, there's even
my favorite part about like giving birth is like Nicolas Cage is down there. He's like, oh, there's 3 legs. And Ving Rhames is like, that's too many legs.
Well, I was going to say, they look down. It's a breached birth because there are 3 legs sticking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have to save the baby. Ving Rhames has got a healthy baby boy. Nick Cage
gets the one that
dies.
Yeah.
So but still, I mean, doesn't save someone.
He's giving it CPR all the way back to the hospital, and it just doesn't make it.
Yeah.
So Ving Rhames is on cloud 9 because he saved a baby boy, or got to deliver a baby boy, and Nick Cage is only focusing on the one that died, not the one that lived. And they get in that ambulance and they're driving, and Nick Cage just, he's like, oh, fuck it, we're done. We need, like, it's time for a drink. We've had our win for the day. And so he
gin and orange juice in the medical bag.
Yeah. Marcus just has his bag, and he's got like a container that would hold like saline solution or something.
Yeah.
It's definitely a medical container. And Cage pulls it out. He's like, I fucking hate gin. And just starts pouring out gin and juices. And
then Marcus,
this is where they get another call. And Cage is like, don't take it. We're done. Just tell him we're drunk. Tell him like the bus is broken down.
But he's
tell
got
him
to take
anything
it because it's love.
Yeah. And Marcus is just on such a high. He's like, just fucking give me another one. I'll fucking save somebody. And he takes the call and like speeds off, and immediately a cab pulls out in front of them, and he swerves and manages to just flip and roll the ambulance with them in it.
They both get out laughing.
Yeah. Praise Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus is like, oh, we made it. And Cage is like, fuck this, I quit. And just like walks away into the night.
But that is kind of the motivation for him to go seek out Mary again.
Nick Cage follows her to her dealer. And
yeah,
they've mentioned that she used to be a junkie, but this is where she slips.
She could be Mary the nun or Mary the junkie, and it didn't matter to her. Yeah. She just wants Cage to like hang out outside, so she's not like using and staying there. She just wants to like leave, but ends up she's there. He goes upstairs to like find her after whatever their
meets the very charming drug dealer.
Yeah, Sai is great. I really like the way he approaches drug dealing. I think
it seems like a good dude.
It's like, you don't have repeat customers if you kill them.
Yeah.
Good fucking business practice.
And he's got an aquarium. That's pretty cool. Some saltwater fish. That's very,
he's got chill vibes.
Takes a lot of work. Yeah.
But Nick Cage Sai gives him something to help him sleep. He has a bad reaction to the drugs. Like King Kong's his way out of there, like grabs Mary over the shoulder and like gets her out of there.
Yeah.
And I love Sai's line as he's getting in the elevator. You owe me $10.
Yeah.
So night 3, we are teamed up with
Tom Wolves, his former partner that he used to ride with, but he
played by Tom Sizemore,
whose way of dealing with his job is to just be like, I get to decide who lives and dies, to the point where he tries to do a murder.
I don't think it's like he's actively trying to murder somebody, but
he's trying to kill that guy.
He hates Noel.
Noel.
He's a very heated, his way of just like living with the stress and trauma, the only way he can like cope or whatever is having this like big moment. Because even when they're driving, like this big violent moment, even when they're driving, Cage is like, I just gotta like break some windows or something, and Tom's like, well, we can't, like, why are we doing it? What's the point? We need something. There's got to be a reason. And then they roll up on a taxi who stopped in a crosswalk, and he gets into pretty racist, but very heated road rage exchange. And it's like, that's all he needed. Like, it's never about the person that he's accosting or upset with. He just needs a reason to justify the way he feels.
Yes. Like, I'm not saying
he's kind of like the manifestation of like everything that could go wrong, like all the stresses of this job, all the shit that you have to see, the like depravity of humanity.
Yeah, he's a cautionary tale.
Right. And he's at the precipice,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And maybe you're right. Maybe he isn't gonna do a murder necessarily, but like he's so close.
Noel
to
would have
that.
died if Nick
Like,
Cage didn't stop him.
He most likely would.
Because even if he didn't kill him, he would have left him for dead.
Right.
That's
right.
what I mean when I say murderer. He's a killer because he would have killed somebody.
I feel it's complicated because he
Oh, it
even
is
says like
complicated.
he was released. And Nick Cage is like, but he's crazy. He's not a criminal. He's crazy. And he's like, why isn't anybody locking him up? Why isn't anybody doing anything about him?
Yeah.
It's like, this is just an aspect of society. We still have this problem.
Yeah.
People with mental health issues for any number of tragic reasons just being pushed in and out of the system, be it hospitals, mental care facilities, and whatnot. And there's never a resolution, or
No.
there doesn't seem to be like a way to help these people on the streets. And all Tom sees is this weight on society of somebody that's being like dragged in and out. And it's when Tom sees him in this scene, he's breaking car windows with a baseball bat just because.
Yeah. Well, and going to your thing about how, there's no point to just, like Nick Cage says he wants to smash something, and he says there's no point to it. When Noel is smashing windows, it's Nick Cage's job to distract him. Noel tells him to like take a crack at it. So Nick Cage like smashes out like a car window, and Tom's like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude?"
Yeah, I think that was more of like Tom just wanted him to like go up there and distract him and push him over.
Yeah.
He thought it was like a simple plan. Nick Cage has more history with Nolan.
Yeah.
He was never into the plan to begin with.
Tom is a broken, like, he's a
little.
how John Goodman had checked out by just being like, "I'm almost done."
Everybody's broken.
Yeah.
In
Right.
this movie.
No, I know.
Nobody is
I
handling
know.
things
I just,
well.
but the way John Goodman's character was just like, "I'm almost done. I can do this for another year. Then I'm going to be the boss." Tom's a lifer, and Tom's just like, "I'm going to do whatever I want."
Right, and he's compressing his rage down constantly because he's dealing with shit that people shouldn't fucking have to look at in a day-to-day situation.
Then we get into how Nick Cage deals with things, how he deals with control of life and death by deciding that Mary's dad has had enough. Unlike Tom, who just was like, "I'm going to get my aggression out with Noel." When you see how Nick Cage decides to take out Mary's dad, it is completely premeditated. Because what he does is he's moved into the ICU. Nick Cage goes in there, says, "I'm the one who brought him in," goes in, closes the curtains. He's already got heart sensor pads on his body. So he removes all the stuff. So the machine's tracking his heartbeat and just lets the man die and lets the man code before putting everything back in.
So it's important to note that we've had a couple scenes leading up to this where Mr. Burke, has an episode or whatever at the hospital. Pretty much every time Cage is there, there will be a scene where Mr. Burke's either like Mr. Burke wakes up and like, or his Valium wears off and he like is trying to get the tube out of his throat,
they have him
or
tied down.
his heart fails again. They talk about how
They have to shock him 13 times, I think.
It's insane. Like he's just constantly.
The family wants to keep him
dying.
alive because the wife believes in miracles. Is what the nurse tells Nick Cage.
Nick Cage is having this, like, presumably in his head, telepathic conversation with Mr. Burke. It's not nearly as weird as that. When he's with him, he is just hearing Mr. Burke
say, "Let him go."
Desire
Yeah.
to die.
And Nick Cage is on no sleep and all caffeine and
And some drugs, too.
And some drugs.
He is definitely not in his right mind throughout most of this movie. His belief is Burke just wants to die.
I think one thing that we're kind of missing, part of the reason he seems to be, in my mind, on a little bit of a high is that he did end up saving the drug dealer.
He saves the drug dealer and almost would have fallen off the roof in the process. So
also, that was beautiful with all the sparks shooting out into the city skyline.
Yeah, it was really nice.
kind of has this near-death experience as well as finally saving someone. So yeah, he is riding that high. So we have that scene. Then we have the Noel shit kicking. Nick
Oh,
Cage
right. So he's now saved 2 lives.
Yes, he saved 2 lives. Well, because he brings Noel in and he is still covered in Noel's blood when he comes in. And that's when he sees that Mr. Burke has been moved out of the emergency room. He's got a unit in ICU. And that's when he goes and does what he was going to do.
He does his mercy killing.
Yeah. Then goes to Mary's to tell her father died, that, they resuscitate him one too many times, and
Yeah.
they hold each other as he nods off.
That's pretty much it.
I liked this one.
I thought it was really good too.
It was really good.
I thought we had a good performance from Cage. And
I thought we had a good performance from everyone. It was really just...
Well, and it's filmed really well. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about being a little stoned and then kind of having uppers and everything. It's like the
my
way
upper downer
the
experiment.
way it's filmed feels that way. Like,
Yeah.
it's so blown out and it's so like light affects you in a major way. And
the lighting in this movie was incredible. The DP
really well done.
fucking killed it.
Really well done.
I wanted to just briefly touch on how during every ride, there's a very different intention with the shots. When you get to Tom, like when Tom starts driving off, it's just really all like everything sped up, quick shots, like just the manic mania of
there's a
his
manic
end.
intensity
Yeah.
to the calls that they take.
Yeah, but I
And
mean that's really
when they're
structured, like
in the
focused
scene.
on.
When they're in the scene, they're slower, they're
Yes.
calm, they're in
Mhm.
control, they're professionals.
Yeah.
But like that getting to and fro, that A-B connection
Yeah.
of everything, it's very intense, and it's kind of like a
Right.
little drug trip. I kind of felt like this movie. I rode this movie sort of like, God, there's something out there, and I don't think it's a Guy Ritchie movie, but it feels like this could have been a Guy Ritchie
For
movie.
sure.
So I know,
Awesome.
Peter, you have some thoughts on Schrader's writing for this, because I wanted to say that, man, Schrader shouldn't direct.
Well, okay,
'Cause-
fully agree. Schrader should not direct. I think he's a bad director. I think he's a better, competent writer.
Mhm.
This is an adaptation of a novel, though.
That's what I was
Okay.
going to say. So I don't think that Schrader's original work is very good. I
That's-
think
yeah.
that he did a good job for this movie, but there's a lot that was
The groundwork
prepared,
was
right?
there.
Like the foundation is there.
Everything I read about it was it's pretty close to the original story. Like
Yeah.
he didn't
Yeah.
take a lot of liberties in this one, which is good. But I was talking to Josie about this, and I was like, man, if he had done something about like fringe people in New York on a decade by decade basis, so like he had Taxi Driver.
Oh yeah.
If he had done something, was Taxi Driver in the 80s?
Yeah, I think so.
So we got Taxi Driver, we got this. If he did some this in the 90s, if he had done something like in the 2000s and maybe done like a New York in the 70s movie,
Right.
kind of covering these fringe people, that would have been a great arc, and
That's an
it would
interesting
have been
story.
a really fun story.
Yeah.
But we got things like Dog Eat Dog and
The other one.
everything else instead.
Fun fact about this film: this was one of the last two films to be released to Laserdisc.
Ooh.
You want to give me a guess what the other one was?
Did it include Richard Gere?
No,
That's
it's got
good.
Johnny Depp in it though.
I prefer Richard Gere.
I do too. Also Christopher Walken,
Late 90s. Wait.
Sleepy Hollow.
Oh shit.
Yeah, those were the
okay.
last two movies released to Laserdisc. What a fucking bummer.
Yeah.
I had a
That's
professor.
that's going out with a fart.
I had a professor in Montana who would invite all of the lighting staff members over, and we would have a big thank you thing every year. And like his wife would make all this food, he'd buy all this beer. And once everybody was drunk, we'd go back into his house and he would put on Pink Floyd's Pulse Tour on Laserdisc, and he would just air drum through the whole thing because he was just
Incredible.
housed.
Nice.
I fucking love Mark. He was a
So
great professor.
Schrader went on a ride along before he wrote the script. On that ride along, he saw a gentleman who had been severed in twain.
Honestly, probably gotta be. Now I'm gonna go silver lining here. A pretty great situation for some people because all clothes shopping would be half off. Sean,
Quotes.
have you got any quotes for this movie?
I do.
Oh, well, why don't you put one on my ear holes?
Right on those ear holes.
Put it on my ear holes.
Vibrate those holes.
They just got Noel. Nick Cage has just
Put it in
talked.
me.
Nick Cage has just talked Noel.
Holes.
Nick Cage has just talked Noel into the ambulance because Noel wants to die and won't kill himself. And Nick Cage convinces him to get in the ambulance by saying, "There's a special room at the hospital where they'll kill you." So he gets in. That's when they go and pick up a drug dealer who'd gotten shot, and he's dying in the back. And Nick Cage is, it's like, "You're not going to die." And Noel's like, "What?" It's like, you're gonna die. He's not. And he's having Noel like hold the guy's arms up, and he's like, hold this. If you let go, I swear I won't kill you.
I fucking love that. That was a good line.
Do you have a Nick Cage quote for this?
I do, and it's from when he was riding around with Tom, and he's in the back of the bus, back of the ambulance, and Tom's just looking back there. He's like, "What are you doing back there?" And Cage is concocting this like IV cocktail for himself. Then he comes back up into the front, and he's got like an oxygen mask on, and he's got an IV, and they're just having this conversation, and Cage is just like through his oxygen mask. He's like, "It's great to be drunk. Sobriety is killing me." His character is such a sad sack. He's always saying like, "Oh, I don't feel good. I feel sick. I can't be here." It's like he just fucking hates his job.
Yeah. Well, he also only consists on alcohol and coffee. He never eats.
Yeah. Eat a fucking sandwich, dude. Eat some chicken.
Yeah.
Eat a half chicken and fries.
Yep.
He is very sickly looking throughout this movie. So malnourished for sure.
Nick, what's your vote?
I mean, I'm a bringing out the dead guy. I've been very pro on this movie for a long time. It's weird. It almost feels like it shouldn't be in this category because of how like kind of comedic the movie comes across. It's very dark. It's very serious, but it's got some comedy, but most dark things in life do
that's
have.
how people it's about people coping with trauma, and a lot of people do that with comedy.
Yeah.
I'm 100% Bringing Out the Dead is my choice, so that's going forward. Some this week in Cage, there is a Lords of War. They're doing a sequel to Lord of War, where with Nick Cage and Bill Skarsgård, where Bill Skarsgård is going to play Nick Cage's son, who is also an arms dealer.
Now this might just be like everybody's on board. It isn't like
maybe
in production.
I don't.
Sure.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that it's news I read this week.
Yeah.
Also, Nick Cage's earliest memory was being in the womb.
Yes. I still need to watch the 60 Minutes. I'm a bad Nick Cage
It was fine.
podcaster.
You get to learn about him having a raven and like a snake.
Fuck, I wish I had a raven.
Yeah.
I wish I had a snake.
It's named Hugin.
My mom was is still afraid of snakes. Well, I haven't checked in.
Yeah, she might be okay now.
I'll bring a snake home next time.
Good. That's a way to figure out if someone's still afraid of snakes.
Peter, what are we watching next?
Next up, we've got the last of the 6 seeds versus 11 seeds in the fucking weird category. Mom and Dad with Selma Blair, and where I think they all have to kill their kids. I don't know. It looks like The Purge meets.
I think it's like there's some kind of like
brain virus,
airborne disease or something that makes
reverse Children of the
parents
Corn
turn against their kids. Yeah.
And then it's up against Next, which is where he is, I think, a charlatan who can predict the future.
He has some knowledge of the future and a bad thing's going to happen.
Yeah, there's two. There's one called Knowing, and there's one called Next.
Yeah.
And they are very much the same.
It's upsetting that they're not going against each other.
Yeah,
but who knows?
They could, Sean. They could.
I was looking at the bracket. They both would have to go to the final round of fucking weird.
Yep.
And I don't know. I haven't watched either of those films yet, but
it seems like one of them will lose to Mandy, but who knows?
Something will lose to Mandy. Something will lose to Color Out of Space, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Not to say that we pick favorites, but obviously
there are
good movies and there are bad movies.
And then there are Nick Cage movies. Hey. Good night, everybody.
No, we still have to say the other stuff.
Like and subscribe.
Yes, please rate, review, subscribe. We are on Instagram at cage_match_pod.
Guys say I'm bad at segues, and when I have like a good outro, you guys just like, no, we can't have that.
That's not a good time to have an outro.
Just because you outro doesn't mean
That's a shitty spot to leave. We have to do the other stuff.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, remember that time you started the podcast in the middle of the podcast?
Okay, we're also on Reddit at Cage Match Pod, and if you are interested in supporting us, we are on Patreon at Cage Match.
Also, if anybody wants to watch this week's movies, Windtalkers is on HBO.
Yep.
And Bringing Out the Dead is on Paramount Plus and something else.
Amazon with Showtime, I think.
I just mentioned
Showtime.
Yeah. But I had HBO. I should have watched Windtalkers.
There is also the Pirate Bay.
There's that too.
Not that I
get a Plex account. What's Plex?
How exactly? Isn't that just people pirating movies and putting them into an online folder?
Yeah, I think that's it.
How is that different?
I don't know. Don't ask us.
Thanks, everybody.
Not going to say it again. I said it twice.
Yeah, you're done. We
Good night, everybody.
Nope. Nope.
Bye. Bye.
Because my initial idea was a coin toss. A coin toss.
A twink cost.
Twink cost
you
is
gotta,
a very
you gotta
different
pay
thing.
your twink tax.
I gotta
Pay the troll toll.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm too fat. I'm more of a bear cub. No,
Have we ever been shy about opening them on?
Do it at a poignant moment.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about a really
Sean's most
emotional
poignant
death
moment.
scene.
It's like
Yeah.
as soon as he gets real serious, he's gonna tell us like the story of like his great aunt like dying in his arms, and
No, that's my only living family member.
your great aunt.
Yeah.
For now.
Keep that in, Peter.
I will.
Good.
Did you get that?
No.
All right,
Sure.
are we
We're
all
not gonna stop in 5 minutes. Thanks, Mom.
Guys, I have to pee. Like, we just stopped. I didn't have to pee then.
do it in your pants?
I was going to say it's your chair, but it's my chair.
Yeah, fuck your chair up.
You guys are going to make me have to pee now.
God damn it, go.
You're gonna have to
I'm
hold it.
kidding.